Pablo, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? First one in, as always. Let's go, Pablo. Scott, good to see you. How you doing? How you been, brother? Evening Miles, Lee, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Evening Miles, how's things? Autistic, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Hello, Miles of CMF. Comatose, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? ACH is not ISO compliant. What are your thoughts on it? ACH is a great, essentially, payment system for ramp, on and off ramps, essentially, from fiat to cryptocurrencies. In that sense, if it's not ISO compliant, technically no crypto project is under the ISO list, but they can become compliant on the ISO list. Not much of it, because it can still become compliant somewhere down the road. Even Miles, Michael, good to see you. Right, and how you been? But obviously, XRP, XLM, XDC are better, essentially, assets in terms of the financial sector by a mile. Oh, no. I don't know what happened there. Hello, Miles of CMF. Carol, good to see you. How you doing? How you been, Carol? Evening, Miles. Michael, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Good to see you. Carol, Evening Square. Evenings. I think you're trying to say Evening, Miles. How are you today? I'm doing great, Paul. How you doing? How's things? Good evening, Miles, and all in CMF. Let's go, Addy. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles and CMF. Bull XRP. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles and all CMF. JP. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Why market is down? Great question, Bull XRP. There's many reasons of why the market is down, but not a genuine reason of why it went drastically down. To be fairly honest. Would you purchase ACH? Would you purchase ACH? If I'm not mistaken, I still do hold ACH, but have I purchased any more ACH? No. If I am going to be purchasing any crypto project, it's always going to be XRP, XLM, XDC, HBAR. These are the assets I'll typically be buying more of. ACH isn't one of them, but it is an asset that I do hold, is what I would say. Good evening, Curtis. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? I'm guessing everybody wants to know why the market is essentially down, which is what I'm going to be sharing with you straight after we do the intro. So, hi, brother. Come on. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Welcome to the CMF Live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, the CMF stands for Crypto Miles Family. My name is Miles. You can tune to this live Monday to Friday, 10 p.m. London time, where I share the most recent news regarding cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, politics, AI, regulations, and Web3. Everything you need to pretty much know about regarding this world transforming into a digital space. Now, this disclaimer of this live show, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. And we also do Q&As on this live as well, which means if you do have any questions or statements to make, put it down in the comment section. Be more than happy to help you out. Now, regarding why the markets have went down today, there's some news regarding of why markets will be down, but nothing major that you could pretty much say of, okay, this is the main reason of why the market is down. So there's a rumor going around that the EU is going to be sanctioning certain aspects of the crypto space due to illicit activities in terms of essentially Russia's spendings and Ukraine situation. So there's that news essentially where the EU might be sanctioning certain crypto persons or people, or essentially certain crypto companies that might have been involved in essentially some sort of illicit activities with essentially Russia and Ukraine. But again, that couldn't be a major catalyst of why the market has drastically dropped. There's also the other aspect where essentially it's coming out as people just want to take profits because we did quite well straight after regulations got passed and we're just getting ready for the next catalyst. That makes some sort of sense. The coordinated drastic essentially drop is a funny one. Honestly, we just got regulations passed. We know what's about to be happening next. A wave of essentially institutions and banks also getting involved inside the crypto space. Even today, we're going to go through partnership news, essentially announcements. We're going to go through banking news, getting more involved inside the crypto space. We have Ripple news to go from tonight's live as well. A lot of partnership news to go from tonight's live is all positive news. Yet the market is responding in a very drastic negative way for a very oddly reason. But what I can tell you is obviously not financial advice in any sort of a way. You know where the market's going to be headed now that we have regulations. So there's no need to worry of why the market has dropped in any sort of a way. The worst thing anybody can do in situations like this is essentially panic sell. But the good thing is, if you're a member of the CMF, you know for a fact we've been through ups and downs, we've been through manipulation, and that's what this is right now. It's market manipulation. And a little essentially drastic drop, or a big drastic drop, or a medium drastic drop, or even a downwards essentially pressure doesn't scare anybody off. If you've been inside the crypto space for the long as I have, you don't really get scared from movements like this. What you usually would end up doing is put a long position. First, you would short the market, and then if you see it's essentially gone to where its resistance level is at, and then you start essentially longing the market back up is what you do. In every instant, the market goes down, you should be making money if you know how to do futures trading. And if the market is essentially about to go back up, you can long the market essentially and get back in. Obviously, there's the side of you getting liquidated if you put the wrong position down. Now, putting all that to one side, it's a very coordinated drop is what I would say, because the EU sanction situation shouldn't really affect the market space the way it did if it's based on that news. If the EU's tariff situation was in play as well, the EU and the US are going back and forward on tariffs, but that shouldn't really have that drastic drop it did inside the crypto space either. There's many outcomes of why this would have happened, but none of them is 100% of an outcome of why it did happen. So all I could say is straight after regulations, profit taking is basically what's happening right now. But it's a very coordinated drop is what it is. Very coordinated. But the end result, we know where this market is headed anyways. We just got regulations. Liquidity is about to be flowing inside the market space. Institutions are about essentially to take control of this market space as well. So if you're inside the retail section, don't panic sell in any sort of a way. And it's not financial advice at all in any sort of a way as well. I've always said this, and I'll always stand by it. The institutions don't really need to push the retail section out. The retail section sometimes just push themselves out. Now, before we go through the first news, which is regarding the EU, ironically, and the US, regarding the tariff situations, let's go to the comment section first, and then we go straight into the first news on tonight's live. By the way, I just want to take 5 seconds to say thank you so much to everybody who has already liked this live and retweeted this live on X. We have so far 6 likes and 7 retweets on X. Thank you so much to everybody from the CMF who is watching right now from X, who has already liked this live and retweeted this live on X. Thank you so much to everybody who has done that. If you haven't done that, CMF members, take 5 seconds or even 1 second to like the live and retweet it if you're watching from X. If you're watching from YouTube, drop a like and drop a comment outside the live also. Now, let's see where we're at inside the comment section before we go through the next news. 80,000 BTC sold last week, wallet drained. That's also one of the reasons as well. But again, it was last week. That's the issue. Too bad about XRP, like we were getting punked. Don't worry about that. What about Miles? What up, Miles and CMF? Hope all is well. Happy hump day. Let's go. Good to see you as well. Ray, how you doing, brother? How you been? Hey, Miles, Michael, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? How are you today? I'm doing great. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Mike, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles and CMF. Callie, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, brother Miles and CMF family. Good to see you as well, Frankie, brother. How you doing? How you been? Buy the dip. While it's cheap, facts. Let's go artistic. There was a lot of people complaining that essentially XRP took off way too quick and they wanted to buy more to add to their portfolio. Well, here's your chance. Look, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Again, not financial advice in any sort of a way, but, you know, moments like this is not really something people should be negative about, because we all know where the market space is headed, towards something very positive now that we have regulations. So moments like this, when we do have market drops happening, it shouldn't be a time for panic in any sort of a way. Not saying anyone is panicking at all, but it shouldn't be a time for panic. It should be seen as a blessing, because if you wanted to get a better position or add more to your portfolio, well, here's your chance. So whenever the market drops, don't ever see it as a negative side or essentially or a panic situation. See it as a blessing. Because if you wanted to add more to your portfolio, well, here's your chance. What's stopping you now? Because we know where the end result is anyways. Buy the dip while it's cheap. Facts. Let's go autistic. Hold the line. Let's go, Mike. Facts. Good morning, sir. Good to see you all around. How you doing? Miles, where is the support level for XRP? It's around, in pounds, it was around £2, essentially 35 pence, if I'm not mistaken. Hi, Miles and family. Alex, good to see you. How you doing? How you've been? If it's been past that, we'll see. Perhaps a series of. I think it might. The lowest might go, even if it has now. I don't know because I'm on live right now. But I would have said it would have went near somewhere around £2.29. Is what I would say. Hi, Miles and family. Alex, good to see you. How you doing? How you've been? Perhaps a series of unfortunate events. Maybe if they won't add up together, they still wouldn't answer to why we had a drastic drop. To me, it just seems like the whales are having a bit of a fun situation inside the market space. Miles, I'm incredibly sorry for talking on Telegram chat whilst you on live. You probably saw the message pop up. I actually haven't, but thank you for letting me know what else. I panic when it goes up, Miles. I feel better the lower it goes. Facts. Let's go Woodhouse because it gives you a chance to buy more. That's the best way to see it. You probably know that, Miles, by my attitude on the day. Let's go. XDC is quietly going to make a huge move, in my opinion, and based on my research. What are your thoughts, Miles? XDC, in my opinion, is also going to do a tremendously well as it goes along, essentially, in this regulated market space we're in right now. I agree with you. I agree with your research. Now, EU and US regarding tariff situations. Someone saying that this might also have an impact on the crypto market space, that the EU and the US are going back and forward. But the EU and the US have been going back and forward for a space about a month regarding tariffs. The crypto market wasn't affected essentially any sort of way up until now. The first time around it was, but after we got more and more tariff news as we went along, essentially the weeks and the days and the months, the crypto market didn't react to tariff news anymore. But some essentially analytics are coming out and saying this could be an outcome for what's happening inside the market space right now. Again, it's a very coordinated drop. EU and US essentially near agreements on 15% trade tariff baseline. This should be good news. Market, is it reacting essentially in a good manner? Not really. Representatives from EU and US are open to the brink of finalizing a trade agreement that establishes a 15% baseline tariff for essentially on European imports. This move aims to prevent threatened tariff increases. Again, this is good news. Is the market reacting in a good manner? No. The negotiation outcome carries substantial implications for international trade and economic essential relations between the EU and the US, impacting various sectors and potentially stabilizing future trade transactions. Negotiations between the EU and the US have progressed towards a potential agreement setting around essentially 15% tariff baseline on European imports. Sources note that this deal incorporates existing tariffs and aims to stabilize trade relations. Again, this is good news. Is the market reacting good? No. This decision follows similar agreements recently endorsed by US counterparts. If approved, this agreement would see a reduction in the current 27.5% auto tariff to 15%, essentially, impacting major essentially industries. Additionally, exemptions for aircrafts, spirits, and medical equipment would remain, potentially minimizing economic disruptions in these sectors. Market observers are closely monitoring these talks right now, with potential EU essentially plans to impose a 93 billion euro essentially retaliation tariff pact if no deal is struck by August 1st. Olive Gill, trade spokesperson, European Commissioner, stated, "To make our countermeasures clearer, simpler, and stronger, we will merge lists 1 and 2 into single lists." Research teams suggest that technological shifts within the crypto sector could better prepare markets for fluctuating trade agreements like pending EU and US tariff negotiations. Historical data shows that such geopolitical events can spur increased hedge positions in stablecoins and decentralized finance protocols. Again, this is what I mean. The market should be reacting in a positive way to this tariff situation with the EU and the US. Is it reacting in a positive way? No. The upcoming Federal Register notice, essentially for 2025, 12462, also covers relative trade updates. This is what I mean. It just also seems very like a very coordinated, essentially, drop from whales. And also profit taking could be going on as well. But at this level is ridiculous. Stablecoin law is what we're going to talk about next. Stablecoin law could trigger massive inflows in US treasuries, says Treasury official. This is, again, positive news coming in from the Treasury, but the market isn't reacting in a positive way. The legislation recently essentially signed into law by President Trump mandates that stablecoin digital currencies pegged to the dollar must be backed one-to-one by liquid assets, primarily cash or short-term US treasuries. Forklando essentially told Bloomberg that this could clarify dramatically and reshape global finance. With rules now in place, both domestic and international players may adopt stablecoins more broadly for payments and invoicing, knowing each token is backed by US governments. Debt. He also added that stablecoins near instant settlement speeds and lower cost may make them essentially a neutral upgrade over traditional cross-border transfers, which often essentially take days. If global trade increasingly relies on dollar-backed stablecoins, then Falklander believes that it could generate trillions in demand for treasuries. Again, this is positive news coming out, essentially a perspective coming out regarding the treasury on Bloomberg, on stablecoins, liquidity entering stablecoins from the institutional sector, and essentially in terms of domestic purposes or international purposes, money entering the crypto space. Is the crypto market reacting in a positive way? Now, you see how odd this is today? Traders are ramping up bets on Fed rate cuts in 2025 to 2026, expecting a new Fed chairman. So this is the next news we're going to go through. Bond investors are increasingly betting on the Fed will essentially cut the rates next year, expecting a new chair to follow Trump's push for easier policies for who? The crypto space. That view shows essentially up in the gap between essentially the SOFR linked futures expiring in December 2025 versus December 2026. According to Bloomberg, it indicates expectations of how far policy easing might extend over that period of time. Although this gap had been slowly expanding in recent months as resilient economy essentially delayed rate cuts forecasts, however, it surged after Trump stepped up his public criticism of Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. Last week, traders are now setting essentially roughly 76 basis points on reductions for next year, a marked increase from the 25 basis points price of April. This shift reflects growing conviction that Jerome Powell's essentially successor, whose term runs through May 2026, will align with President's essentially push for lower borrowing costs. Even after Trump essentially retreated from hints of firing the Fed chairman, investors remain confident he will still monitor essentially policies. Whoever comes in next, that person is going to have a basis towards lowering rates, said Ed, essentially the global rate strategist at Columbia. He added that the economy is less likely to be resilient next year, making it easier to ease policies right now. Jerome Powell has taken heat from the GOP leaders for resisting essentially cuts, aimed concerns that the administration's tariffs could stroke inflation. Some Republicans have also criticized the Fed's recent high-cost renovations of its headquarters. Asset managers have repositioned their portfolios in anticipation of a new Fed chairman, while Wall Street essentially strategies are drafting trade plans for varied essential outcomes, including the remote possibility of Jerome Powell stepping down. That is also positive news too, but the market isn't reacting in a positive manner. So who replaces Jerome Powell? Potential Fed chair picks are Kevin Hassett and Kevin essentially Warish, and have already voiced their support for trimming rates right now. And Governors Christopher essentially Waller and essentially Michelle Bowman, both essentially Trump appointees, have hinted they could essentially back a cut as early as July 29th to essentially July 30th in terms of policy meetings. Traders assign virtually no probability to move at the upcoming gathering, yet the Fed funds futures implies about 58% chance of a quarter-point reduction in September. Trump will also influence the Fed's voting lineup when Governor essentially Andrea term expires in January. Treasury Secretary Scott Benson has also essentially proposed naming a new chair pick in October or November before the vacancy essentially occurs. The SOFR, apologies. Sorry about that, everyone. I have no idea where that sneeze came from. Sorry about that. Now, he advised clients to establish the position. Fuck. I have no idea what's happening. Sorry, can everyone see me? I sneezed and then Restream decided to cut the live. Bit weird. Can you see me? Yep, we're back. Okay. That sneeze must have been very strong for the platform that I'm using, Restream, to cut the live for a second. Now, the SOFR spread strategy has paid dividends for essentially Jordan, head of the EMA-EA FICC strategy at Mizo Bank. He advised clients to establish essentially the position in early June around 53 basis points, predicting it could essentially expand towards 100 basis points if dovish, essentially Fed chair, takes over. Clients' question essentially have been less on what we think for the US, inflation and labor markets this week, but more on the various options a new Fed chair could have to essentially please the president, he said. Meanwhile, Philip, the senior US essentially strategist at Robobank, updated his outlooks on Monday for essentially a forecast of 4 rate cuts next year, beginning in September 2025. Previously, he only saw 1 trimming this year and none afterwards. Comments from Waller and Bowman convinced Merrily that the dovish successor could win enough backing among 12 essentially FOMC voting members to push through reductions. I know and expect a regime change next year, Murray said. The Fed can hold out this year, but once new appointees begin, the resistance is going to crumble. So another aspect of essentially why the market could be down is that Jerome Powell, the Fed chairman, looks like can't be removed, which is a negative for the crypto space that we can't remove Jerome Powell for the time being. Although essentially the Justice Department is still looking into the mismanagement of funds when it came essentially for the renovation project by Jerome Powell. But if they don't get that along in some sort of a way and find something on Jerome Powell in a matter of time, then it's just going to be extending until this term essentially ends. That could also be something negative for the crypto spaces. But again, that wouldn't be a drastic reason of why the market will push itself down. But also there's positivity to this news as well, where essentially traders right now in terms of Wall Street essentially is betting on the idea that we're going to get rate cuts very soon. And also that they're betting on essentially that Jerome Powell might also be removed before his term ends. That's also seen as a positive news. But again, the crypto market isn't reacting essentially in a positive way, which is very odd because we're getting so much good news, but the crypto market is doing the opposite. The whales are really having fun right now. Marathon Digital is what we're going to talk about next. Just to add on top of that, Marathon Digital has announced $850 million in convertible debt offerings for Bitcoin acquisition. This should be seen as good news for Bitcoin. Summarizing the current happenings, Marathon Digital Holdings, which is essentially a very big Bitcoin mining firm in the US, announced the issuance of $850 million in convertible debt to acquire more Bitcoin, with involvements from institutional investors only. This move by Marathon Digital aims to strengthen its Bitcoin reserves amidst market volatility, reflecting Streak essentially dominance inside the cryptocurrency space. Marathon Digital Holdings Inc., the largest Bitcoin miner, is issuing $850 million in convertible senior notes due in 2032. These funds will bolster the company's Bitcoin holdings for the time being, and the offering targets qualified institutional buyers aiming to optimize their resources. They're doing the exact same thing that Strategy does when they essentially raise money to buy Bitcoin. Key players include Marathon's CEO, Fred, commenting essentially the raised funds to Bitcoin acquisition, capped essentially a call hedging and debt to essentially repurchases. This aligns essentially with Marathon's ongoing strategy to maintain a considerable BTC reserve right now. Proceeds from the offerings will be used for acquisitions of Bitcoin, debt repurchases, also capped call transactions and other corporate purposes, said the CEO of Marathon. The $850 million issuance is expected to significantly affect Bitcoin's markets. As it underscores institutional interest inside the cryptocurrency sector, Marathon continues to hedge against the dilution by essentially employing capped call strategies. Marathon's maneuver could influence broader market sentiments by showcasing a strong institutional commitment to Bitcoin despite the volatile conditions. Their essentially hold strategy remains intact, emphasizing long-term control over Bitcoin assets. Marathon has previously engaged in similar debt and equity financings, raising substantial sums for Bitcoin's accumulation and operational expansions. These past actions established a rationale for the current offerings, further essentially cementing their strategy, analyzed essentially against past activities. The $850 million essentially offering aligns with Marathon's 100% Bitcoin retention policy, suggesting continued growth and influence inside the cryptocurrency sector. In terms of the mining sector as well, market analysts will likely monitor this impact on Bitcoin's price. So Marathon Digital raising $850 million to add more to their Bitcoin treasury should be seen as good news, but the market isn't reacting in a positive way. It's just very, very odd today. Today is extremely odd because the whales are having an absolute blast right now, manipulating the hell out of the market space. Because there's so much good news today on partnership announcements or institutions raising more money to add essentially Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency to their portfolio and so on. Now, we did get the odd few bad egg news today. For example, one of them being the SEC essentially approving a Bitwise crypto ETF last second, pausing the Bitcoin essentially ETF and the crypto ETF, the basket of crypto ETFs on Bitwise. That's a bit odd, but it's the second time the essentially SEC has done this. The first time around essentially was when they did it with Grayscale, essentially basket of cryptocurrencies. They approved it, but then last second they paused it. That could be seen as a negative, but again, it shouldn't be a reasoning of this drastic drop we're having inside the crypto space also, because we have so much positive news happening. The only thing that comes to mind of the market reacting the way it is profit taking, but this must be some serious profit taking right now, knowing what's about to happen next. Now that we get on regulations, the amount of liquidity that's going to be entering the crypto market space. I mean, we've had perspectives coming in from Morgan Stanley of where the market space is headed right now. It's going to be an absolute monster alt season. Before the monster alt season starts, the whales decide to have a little bit of fun with the market space by coordinately dumping every asset. Cango is what we're going to talk about next, which is also positive news. But before we go through that, let's go inside the comment section first. As I said previously, this is live, which means if you do have any questions or comments to make, put it down inside the comment section. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have. Now, let's go inside the comment section first. Before we go through the next news, let's see even where we were at inside the comment section. We were at, I think here, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I'm all in on XRP, XDC, XLM, ACH, and HBAR. Great projects, to be fairly honest. Very great projects. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Or I think it's season. How you been? Miles, Beam, SEI, and Hot. Hot, good in its own essentially category. Beam, good inside the gaming sector. SEI, also good. Time for buying, not for frustrating. Facts. Not financial advice, obviously. Let's go, Scott. Scott, I got a bunch of Beam on pre-sale. I need to check on it. Miles, what's your take on Barclays removing crypto transactions? How many banks do remain? So Barclays Bank, essentially in the UK, decided to text its users that they're not allowed to use their Barclays bank card anymore or bank accounts to buy cryptocurrencies. It's a very odd move from Barclays, but it also does show of how close we are to a digital world. The UK might not seem like it, but they're moving very fast in a CBDC world. So every other country around the world has some sort of crypto laws in place, and they're advancing on other aspects of the digital space also. The UK, on the other hand, is just jumping into the idea of a very strict, regulated CBDC world, you could pretty much say. The Bank of England making an announcement essentially yesterday, which we went through, regarding how they're advancing inside the CBDC sector, and the UK also restricting essentially privacy, where the UK could have access to your WhatsApp calls, your Telegram messaging, and your WhatsApp messaging, and any other messaging service out there. The UK day by day is getting more strict, and they're creating this digital prison at a much more faster rate than any other country out there, to be fairly honest, except obviously excluding China, which is moving at a much more rapid pace for on digital prison. Most people just don't realize it. But the UK, they've completely, freedom of speech just doesn't exist anymore. So you have to be aware of what you say, because it could really backfire. They're also moving extremely fast into a digital prison at a much more faster rate than any other country out there, to be fairly honest. They haven't established any sort of crypto regulations, though mentioning they're going to, but yet they are moving rapidly fast towards CBDCs, rapidly trying to destroy your privacy, and then now trying to stop you from buying cryptocurrencies. It just shows you that they're really going headfirst into a CBDC world at a much more rapid pace than anybody else around them. The easiest way to put it. With essentially, Barclays isn't the only one that's going to be doing this. Email Miles and CMF peeps, sempre good to see you. How you doing? How you been? But banks like Revolut are going to thrive right now. Banks, essentially like Revolut are going to do extremely well because they're very pro when it comes to cryptocurrencies. So people who use Barclays bank accounts can now shift over to Revolut, which is very bad for Barclays in itself because they're going to lose customers. Now, evening, mate. Pure, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Semper, evening, Miles and CMF peeps. Let's go, Semper. How you doing? How you been? Bless you. Let's go, Mike. Thank you so much. Artistic, bless you. Bless you, Miles. Thank you so much, Scott. Thank you so much, Artistic as well. And Mike, where are you, Miles? I'm right here. Yes, let's go. You sneeze this offline, Miles. Yes. See Miles, I see Miles. What up, man? Allergic to money. I seize too when money comes my way. Greetings, Miles and CMF. Lena, good to see you all. How you doing? How you been? Share the live. Let's go, Scott. Share the live. Let's go, Scott. Congratulations on episode 340, Miles. Let's go, Scott. Thanks so much for the kind words. Now, Cango. Cango finalizes essentially a pivot to a Bitcoin mining company. This should be seen as a positive essentially for Bitcoin, but the interesting factor about this scenario is that Cango is a Chinese company that's made the transfer over to a Bitcoin mining company. So Cango, a Chinese firm listed in the US that announced plans to pivot into a Bitcoin mining company back in November 2024, has confirmed it is now fully transitioned. Today, they made the announcement they fully became a Bitcoin mining corporation right now, and they're a Chinese company. The company announced its milestone on July 23rd, essentially 2025, noting essentially that progress towards this goal has included notable essentially growth in its Bitcoin treasury right now. The firm states essentially that it currently holds over 4,000 Bitcoin and plans to expand essentially its capacity beyond 50 essentially exahash rates per second. Cango also eyes mining with green energy too. To strengthen its Bitcoin mining operations, Cango has undertaken a significant, essentially, overhaul of its leadership with changes to the board of directors, essentially, and senior managements. Among those, essentially, to take up leadership roles in the new, essentially, team include Peg as, essentially, the chief executive officer and director, Xing, essentially, as the chairman of the board and non-executive director, and Zhang as the chief financial officer. Meanwhile, Zhang and Lin have also resigned as director and chairman and chief executive officer, respectively. This leadership term essentially gives Cango the right mix of skills to execute essentially our next phase of growth, said the new CEO, Peg. Successfully, having essentially transformed into a Bitcoin miner, we have already made remarkable progress in the past 7 months by becoming one of the largest Bitcoin miners in the world. Keep in mind that this is a Chinese company that's public on the US market. Cango, founded essentially 2010, operated as a Chinese-based car financing platform. However, it has since sold its automotive business with its pivot to Bitcoin mining, seeing the grow. Its mining fleet considerably, the hash rate has increased to 50, following essentially a recent acquisition which is being deployed for mining operations across 4 continents. The miner whose pivot means it now competes against top Bitcoin mining companies such as Mara, which is technically essentially the majority shareholder of Mara is actually Vanguard and BlackRock. BTC mining companies such as Mara, Riot, also BlackRock, majority shareholder, and Vanguard. And CleanSpark managed 1,541 Bitcoin mines in the first quarter of 2025. Its total over 4,000 BTCs up around essentially 3,430 at the end of May. In comparison, Bitcoin treasuries data shows that Mara currently holds 50,000 Bitcoins. The majority of Bitcoin mining corporations in the US are all technically public, but they're also majority of them are backed in terms of shares by BlackRock and Vanguard. But that again should be seen as some sort of a positive news for Bitcoin. It isn't. Now, investors shift focus from Bitcoin to Ethereum and altcoins. Yet the market essentially is not reacting the way it should be. See, a crypto essentially firm has came out, an analytics firm has came out with a crypto report of where the market should be at now. But it's not reacting the way the report says. Investors are relocating assets from Bitcoin towards Ethereum and select altcoins, according to Crypto Quant's report that just came out, highlighting streak investment shifts. The strict essentially repositioning could alter market balances, underscoring Ethereum's growing appeal and potential influence on the crypto landscape. Investors are reportedly moving funds from Bitcoin into Ethereum and other altcoins also, as noted by CryptoQuant reports. This shift follows increased ETF activity, which signifies strict alignments in investor priorities. Is what the report is stating, but the market isn't showing what the report is stating right now. The CEO of CryptoQuant, essentially, Ki-Young Ju, indicated that the trend reflects institutional preferences for stable assets. Notably, large-cap cryptocurrencies like Ethereum and essentially are favored over smaller speculative tokens. The new cycle sees capital primarily flowing into widely accepted altcoins rather than speculative micro-cap tokens, said Ki-Young, the CEO of essentially CryptoQuant. Ethereum's weekly trading volume has surpassed Bitcoin, illustrating its rising essential prominence. Institutional funds have notably increased their Ethereum allocations, reflecting a strict shift in investment focus. The trend has essential implications across financial markets right now. With Bitcoin experiencing net outflows, selective rotation supports resilient altcoins while downplaying speculative microcaps. Past cycles saw widespread altcoin investments, but this shift targets established assets. The current scenario marks a departure from historical patterns. Market confidence may rise over time, with investors prioritizing stability. Historical trends suggest continued interest in large-cap cryptos, potentially redefining altcoin and market dynamics. Even according to essentially the CEO of CryptoQuant, their analytics report that came out regarding the crypto market space moving forward is all positive, but yet the market is constantly dumping. President Trump is what we're going to be talking about next. President Trump pushes for essentially regulations and increasing energy sources for AI developments. The US is obviously not just aiming for the capital of cryptocurrencies, but they're also aiming for the title of capital of AI right now. So we have had the crypto week with some regulation passes and some signings as well, more signings to go along. But we're also getting news that Trump is doing some big movements in the artificial intelligence sector. Now, just to put it in perspective, AI market space does also impact the crypto market space. Because, for example, the last time we had an AI disruption was when a Chinese Chinese company came forward and said that they can build and have built something faster, more reliable, more secure than essentially ChatGPT for about 99% of the cost price of what essentially took ChatGPT to be created, which essentially made tech stocks go down in value on the stock market, which Bitcoin then tends to follow tech stocks sometimes, which Bitcoin went down essentially drastically, so which took down the entire crypto market space with it. This is why we need more regulations inside the crypto space so that essentially certain crypto projects can decouple themselves from Bitcoin's footsteps. But again, this is why AI news is also very important as well, because it does impact the crypto market space. Positive and negative. President Donald Trump recommends easing data center regulations and increasing their energy sources for artificial intelligence. In terms of development, he proposed pulling federal funding for states that enforce what it deems excessive regulations on new technologies. According to the White House, the new proposed strategies would give the country a competitive edge over China right now. The sweeping 90 plus page America's AI Action Plan, they're calling it, aimed at cementing the United States leadership in artificial intelligence through an aggressive infrastructure-first strategy focused on innovation and essentially regulations and global competitiveness. The Trump administration insists that the AI plan will solidify America's role in shaping essentially global artificial intelligence frameworks and prevent rival essentially nations like China from closing the technology gap, because the last time they did that, it impacted the market space in a negative way. It outlines measures to simplify projects and approvals and relax environmental regulators to speed up artificial intelligence developments. Moreover, it also seeks to dismantle what Trump has criticized as an overly restrictive AI policy framework under Biden. Obviously, the Biden administration did everything they could to stop any sort of progress and innovations in the United States. And Trump is obviously undoing everything Biden did that restricted growth in the US. White House AI essentially Caesar David Sachs even commented on the policies. He said, to win the AI race, the US must lead in innovation, infrastructure, and global partnerships. At the same time, we must center American workers and avoid the use of artificial intelligence also, so that Americans can also have jobs. The action plan provides a roadmap for doing that. President Donald Trump has called the action plan the most important policy move yet for a technology poised to transform the global economy. Today, the president will implement parts of his artificial intelligence plan strategy by signing executive orders, one of which will task the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation and the Export-Import Bank to promote global adoption of U.S. technology. The president will also issue an order mandating any language models used by the government must uphold standards of neutrality and impartialness. Secretary of State Marco Rubio also spoke on the plans, saying that the well-defined policy objectives are essential for guiding federal efforts to maintain America's technological leadership and global influence. Shortly after his essential inauguration, Trump overturned essentially the 2023 directive from Biden that required rigorous safety assessments and transparency reports from leading tech companies. He then essentially directed Sachs to redraw a course for artificial intelligence and regulations in 6 months. David Sachs, Simon, and Michael spent months essentially talking to top experts inside the tech field to get their input and feedback on the industry. It's the best way to do it. If you want to do regulations for the AI space or the crypto space, the number one people you should be talking to is the CEOs and executive board members and so on from these crypto companies, or in this case, the AI companies. The plan also includes the efforts to modernize the existing energy grids and institute measures to enhance the efficiency of essentially of the transmission systems. It also suggests reliable and dispatchable resources such as nuclear and advanced essentially plants should be given essentially priority access to grids to aid increased demand. Bloomberg's NEF estimates that by 2035, data centers will be using 8.6% of the electricity inside the United States, up from the current 3.5%. Trump's administration official says that the freeing coal, natural gas, and nuclear power from years of being burned is essential to meet the growing demand, and essentially, if nothing is done, there could be a power shortage. The Energy Department has also restored to emergency measures to keep 2 power plants from shutting down and has even raised the possibility of further federal interventions. AI essentially is a massive field as well that Trump does really essentially think big on and is trying to make the US the capital of AI essentially. We also do have some AI crypto projects out there that could benefit from AI regulations as well. And as I said previously, the AI market space does impact the crypto market space too. Going back to that whole China situation where they created something that was similar to ChatGPT, but it was like 1,000 times cheaper than ChatGPT, which made the US market tech stocks crash, which made Bitcoin crash, which made the crypto market crash. So that's the relevance of essentially of AI crypto, AI essentially software and AI essentially data centers to the crypto market space. There's relevance between them because they do impact each other's market spaces. More or less, the AI market space does impact the crypto space. But anyways, putting all that to one side, we're getting more regulations in terms of AI in the US, which is a positive side, which means the AI market space can grow, which means also it's not going to impact the crypto market space in a negative way. This also should be seen as good news, but for some reason, it's not. Now, this should also be seen as good news for the crypto market space because it's major news. The one I'm about to read out to you now. But the crypto market space coordinately is coming down. The whales, honestly, are having crazy fun right now inside the crypto space. But so are people who are doing futures trading. American financial giants launch pioneering tokenized fund initiatives. So American financial giants Goldman Sachs, BNY Mellon have announced a joint initiative to open access to tokenized funds for institutional investors. Just want to put it out there that Ripple recently essentially, BNY Mellon became the custody service for Ripple also. So there's a partnership going on there. And that happened about a week ago. And then you fast forward to today, where BNY Mellon and Goldman Sachs have announced a joint partnership for tokenized assets. This initiative reflects a broader interest push essentially to modernize the investment landscape and bring greater transparency and efficiency to fund management. This is major news, honestly, major news. Goldman Sachs, BNY Mellon coming together, 2 absolute behemoths inside the financial sector, coming together to go into tokenization should be massive news for the crypto space. But the crypto market is reacting in a negative way. Do you see how odd it is today? Out of nowhere, the market just drastically drops quarterly together. Honestly, the whales are having an absolute blast right now. The collaboration, essentially, and according to the press release, BNY Mellon will use blockchain technology developed by Goldman Sachs to keep track of clients' right-specific investment products. The collaboration is set to involve, essentially, Dayfreefos, a BNY Mellon company, Fremont Homes, Fidelity Investments, and Goldman Sachs Asset Management in the initial launch. Behemoths coming together to launch a tokenized project for the crypto space. These major players aim to establish a new standard for digitalized fund transactions. As the financial system transitions towards a more digital, real-time architecture, BNY Mellon is committed to essentially enabling scalable and secure solutions that shape the future of finance. Is their exact words. Mirrored tokenization of MMF shares is the first step in this transition, and we are proud to be at the forefront of this first of its kind initiative, stated the BNY Mellon's head of liquidity, funding, and collateral. Investors will also be able to subscribe to and redeem MMF shares through the blockchain-based BNY Mellon Liquidity Direct platform. Mirrored security tokens are created on Goldman Sachs digital asset platform GSDApp, offering increased transparency and reducing settlement times by leveraging distributed ledger technology. A wave of crypto-related announcements from major companies has followed the US President Donald Trump's Genius Act. This act establishes clearer rules for stablecoins and represents the first significance of regulations on the crypto industry inside the United States. Because of that Genius Act, today BNY Mellon, Fidelity, Goldman Sachs, all coming together on a joint adventure to enter the crypto space. Crypto should be, excited about that news. But unfortunately, you can see how the market has been manipulated right now. Now, this is why I mean, honestly, the whales right now inside the crypto space are having an absolute blast. The good news is we all know where the market is headed anyways. It's headed to a very positive step going forward. So the whales can have their little fun now, while we also can do some, a little bit of futures trading on the back of the whales. Now, fiat, what we're going to be talking about next is CBDC. So moving off the news regarding BNY Mellon, Goldman Sachs, Fidelity, all coming together. We're going to talk about the fate of crypto, CBDC bills, and so on. So, the fate of crypto, CBDC bills unclear as US Congress heads into recess. US Republican lawmakers and President Donald Trump were able to overcome their inter-party disputes to get the 3 crypto bills passed through the House of Representatives last week. But some of the legislation still has a way to go before it becomes law. After 2 long sessions in the House last week, on Thursday, all but 12 Republicans and more than 100 Democrats have essentially voted yay on the guiding and establishing a national innovation for the Genius Act, which fully passed, and so did the other 2. A bill to regulate payment stablecoins, which Trump signed into law after 24 hours later. The other 2 bills, the Clarity Act and the Anti-CBDC Act, essentially, will head to the Senate for consideration as both chambers prepare to break for an August recess. So the other 2 will also pass, but they need to go to the Senate. The Genius Act was passed, signed into law, full stop. The other 2 bills will also pass, but they need to go through the Senate to become law. These 3 bills were a part of the Republicans' Crypto Week initiative, claiming urgency in establishing regulatory clarity for aspects of digital asset industry. Some Republican lawmakers have attempted to brand their efforts as non-partisan or bipartisan. The overwhelming, essentially, majority of spectators at the Genius Act signing were members of their party or otherwise allied with Trump, while essentially some Democrats continue to bring up Trump's potential of conflicts of interest and essentially debates over the bills connected to his own crypto ventures. This suggested that the legislation could still face essentially arguments from essentially Senate Democrats over the remaining 2 bills, mostly Pocahontas, and the other one, Rep. Essentially Waters. Now, Senate Republicans are expected to address crypto market structures first. The bill would essentially lay out rules for regulators like the Securities and Exchange SEC Commission and the CFTC Commission as well, and distinguish which tokens qualified as securities under US laws. Today, 4 Republican senators released a discussion draft of their version of the crypto market structure bill. So today, 4 Republicans came forward with their draft of the bill to go to the Senate, which they said builds on the Clarity Act. The legislation, essentially titled Responsible Financial Innovation Act, suggested that the House efforts to establish a crypto market structure may have been a little more than a test run for the Senate's bill. Whether the Clarity Act or the Responsible Financial Innovation Act ends up being closer to the final product desired by Republicans, either bill must pass through both chambers to wind up on Trump's desk. The anti-CBDC bill faces similar challenges also, just like the Clarity Act. Only 2 Democrats sided with Republicans to approve the bill in the House. Reports also suggested that many Republicans held on the initial vote on all 3 bills over concerns that the wording of the Genius Act could allow for backdoor for the U.S. in terms of U.S. digital dollars. Wyoming Senator Cynthia Lummis, chair of the essentially Banking Committee's Digital Assets Subcommittee, has also proposed that the Senate remain in session through the August to address some of Trump's negotiations and nominations. A spokesperson for the Senate said that would also help execute the president's essentially agenda during that time, signaling that it could also use the time to prepare for markups of the 2 bills. Aimed on all the discussions on crypto bills with the lawmakers and Congress expected for break in their August recess, in a matter of days, the Senate has also yet to vote on the nomination of Brian Quince, the chair for the CFTC. Reports suggest that 1 Republican senator might be absent from scheduled Monday committee meeting, forcing leadership to delay the vote on Quince. A spokesperson for Senate essentially Agriculture Committee Chair John Bozeman, meeting to consider Quince's nomination, told Cointelegraph Republicans expect a vote along party lines. However, the committee planned to vote on the perspectives of CFTC chair before the August recess. Only 2 commissioners, Acting Chair Caroline Pham and Christian Johnson, were serving at the CFTC at the time of publication. Both are expected to depart the agency before 2026 after Quince's essentially possible confirmation by the Senate, potentially leaving 4 leadership seats vacant. So things that are still essentially need to be happening. Two of the things that still need to be happening. 1, the CFTC chairman still needs to be chosen essentially as Quince. They need to vote him in. The faster they vote him in, the faster the CFTC can start their roadmap on cryptocurrencies. 2, the Clarity Act is essentially past the first round of votes. It needs to pass the second round of votes, which is going to be by the Senate. Is it going to get voted through? Yes, it's going to the same way the Genius Act passed, so is this one. It has technically passed, but it needs to pass the Senate to get the essentially to become a law. 3, the anti-CBDC bill also essentially needs to pass the Senate as well to become law. The Clarity Act, however, was different and passed the votes, came to Trump's essentially table to signing the bill. So that became law instantly. The other 2 bills, they're apparently adding some things onto it still. They want to add, essentially the Republicans are trying to structure the bill in a way to essentially, add certain parts to that bill for maybe their benefit or for the crypto market's benefit. Let's just see how things plan out. But a second vote is about to be happening for those 2 bills also to land on Trump's table for it to be signed. The Democratic Party is not happy about the Anti-CBDC Surveillance Act whatsoever, mainly because the Fed cannot control CBDCs, and they are unhappy about that because the Fed stands with the Democratic Party. Even though the Fed is supposed to be impartial and, the Fed chairman, Jerome Powell, is supposed to be impartial, supposed to be neutral in this aspect, we all know where that that bastard stands. He stands with the Democratic Party. So he's not neutral in any sort of way at all. But yeah, so they're not happy about the CBDC Anti-Surveillance Act, but who cares about the Democratic Party anyways? But anyways, those 2 bills are going to go through the Senate. They're going to get the votes they need to pass into law. The other one, the Genius Act, Trump just needs to sign that instead. Now, Visa is what we're going to talk about next. Visa is launching an entire campaign into digital payments right now. Also very positive news for the crypto space. So Visa launches the first data center in Africa. Africa is becoming a hub right now for digital essentially payments. The same way the Middle East essentially is where all the investments are going right now in terms of Dubai, for example, Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar. All these Middle Eastern countries are getting tremendous amount of investments because they're very pro-crypto, to be fairly honest. Africa has also become a very pro-continent when it comes to cryptocurrencies. And well, Visa has decided that Africa is going to be their new hotspot. So here it is. Visa launches the first ever data center in Africa to boost its growing digital payment sector. Global payment companies Visa has unveiled its data center in South Africa, representing it the first in Africa. According to the company, the infrastructure serves as a platform for its growth across the African continent. The company said that the data center is structured to improve its services on the African continent. They're also, just to put it in perspective, there's a tremendous amount of blockchain companies that have also expanded into Africa, Ripple being one of them. Ripple expanded into Africa quite a bit, actually, in terms of their payment infrastructures. While the infrastructure location in South Africa will also its base for a broader extension to other parts of the continent. In addition, the infrastructure is a part of Visa's $57 million long-term plan to drive a base across the continent. Visa launched in Africa 30 years ago, and now essentially further solidifying its presence with the first ever data center in South Africa. However, the reports do note essentially that the exact location and size are not disclosed due to security reasons, obviously. While essentially reacting to the development, the country manager of Southern and Eastern essentially Africa at Visa, Michael, noted that the infrastructure is a testament to Visa's growth, while the number of daily transactions across the continent continues to grow as well. Visa is not doing this to expand on traditional payment relays in Africa. They're doing it because the entire continent of Africa is actually, progressed quite well, you could say, inside the blockchain sector. There's a lot of investments going right now towards Africa. With this data center, we believe we will be bringing more innovations, more modern and sophisticated products to South Africa and the broader Africa continent, said essentially Michael. According to experts, Visa's investments in local infrastructure is set to boost Africa's financial inclusion and reinforce efforts of national government banks and fintechs towards essentially digital payments across Africa. South Africa's communications minister, Sole, tagged the data center as a vote of confidence in the country as an investment destination. He said it will reduce the such a reliance on overseas infrastructures and bolster the country's national financial sovereignty and Africa in extension. In addition, the $57 million plan is a part of the $1 billion investment in Africa over the 5 years, which was announced back in 2022, aimed at strengthening payment systems. The data center represents a pivotal part of the company's global processing networks, VisaNet. According to the payment service giant, the initiative has facilitated more than 100 billion transactions annually across 200 countries. Now, just to put in perspective of where they think the payment situation is going to be in Africa, a 2025 MasterCard Commission report by Genesis Analytics noted that Africa's digital payment economy is expected to reach $1.5 trillion by 2030. So there's a reason why companies like essentially Standard Chartered, there's a reason why companies like Visa or companies like Ripple or a bank like Standard Chartered Bank or any other major bank or essentially company out there inside the blockchain sector are all putting big investments in Africa right now because they're seeing it as essentially an established place. And because they're seeing as the blossoming amount of liquidity that's about to be coming in from the African sector as well, around about $1.5 trillion is about to be coming to the table. For Africa, Visa is introducing technological innovations where the data center will allow the company to provide a state-of-the-art technological solutions, including generative AI-enabled payments also. So Africa is honestly becoming an absolute hub for the cryptocurrency sector. If you're somebody out there who is inside the cryptocurrency sector, who's also building a crypto project, maybe reach out to African VC companies because right now, it's much more easy to get accepted than later on, is what I want to say. But it is becoming a great hub for investments, to be fairly honest. Now, moving on from that, but staying on the topic of a bank, like Standard Chartered Bank, as we just said, invested in Africa as well. But Standard Chartered Bank, backed Zodiac Custody, has just joined Ondo Finance. This should be positive news for the crypto space and Ondo Finance. That a major bank like Standard Chartered Bank has just partnered with Ondo Finance should be seen as a positive. But the crypto market isn't reacting in a positive way. Zodiac Custody, a digital essentially asset custody platform by Standard Chartered Bank, has joined the Global Markets Alliance, an initiative by Ondo Finance, aimed at promoting interoperability across the tokenized asset market space. As the Global Markets Alliance newest member, Zodiac Custody adds to a group of industry essentially players that includes Solana Foundation, Layer Zero, BitGo, Fireblocks, Jupiter, Trust Wallet, 1inch, Aperture, and BitGet, and Ripple also. Ondo Finance essentially announced that Zodiac Custody move via X. Like the other members, Zodiac Custody will leverage its infrastructure, security, and compliance features to help advance the tokenization of capital markets. They're also part of Metico as well, which is also a Ripple company. The on-chain efforts aligns with the institution's first digital asset custodians traction across the ecosystem. Efforts that include the support for institutional decentralized finance on the Tom blockchain as well. The Global Markets Alliance areas of focus across the real-world assets on-chain ecosystem includes tokenized stocks, exchange-traded funds, ETFs in other words, money market funds, and private credit. Real-world asset on-chain is a rapidly expanding market with major players including BlackRock, Franklin Templeton, Fidelity Investments that are driving the adoption to the next level right now. The key to essentially growing tokenization lies in its enables the bridging of traditional finance and blockchain with real-world assets wrapped into tokens issued on the blockchain. Investors taking position with these assets benefit from 24/7 trading, fractional ownership, and on-chain transparency and accessibility. With essentially institutional clients eyeing the tokenization opportunity, major Wall Street essentially banks have no option but to consider launching their own tokenized asset initiatives. Zodiac, which also offers a staking solution, counts asset managers, banks, crypto natives, governments, hedge funds, and private wealth firms among its partners. The platform recently launched Zodiac Rewards, its opt-in token rewards program targeted for institutional clients. Clients can also enjoy rewards on supported stablecoins, including USDC and essentially USDE on the global dollar network. Stablecoins are being adopted far beyond crypto capital markets, emerging as a tool to complement traditional financial relays for cross-border payments right now. We see this value, and as a custodian, we want to play our part to help unlock further capital efficiencies, said Anush, the Chief Product Officer at Zodiac Custody. So this honestly should be seen as, brilliant news for Ondo Finance and also good news for the crypto space. But yet, the whales are having too much fun inside the crypto space right now. Now, Ripple is what we're going to talk about next. But before we talk about Ripple news, let's go to the comment section first. As I said previously, this is live, which means if you have any questions or statements to make, essentially, put it down in the comment section. More than happy to answer any questions you may have. So let's go to the comment section first before we start the Ripple segment of this live. Let's go, Scott. Hi, Miles and CMF. I'm working but listening. Let's go, Stormy. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Money, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Okay, I think I was here in terms of, yeah, I was here. Hi, Miles and CMF family. Is it time to on my CMF TV? Which cold wallet do you prefer between Trezor and Ledger? Ledger. Between Trezor and Ledger, definitely Ledger. Ledger, Trezor, and Tangent. Also, I'm sponsored by Tangent as well. If anybody wants to get a Tangent wallet, you can use my name, Crypto Miles in capitals, no space, just Crypto Miles. You get 10 to 20% off your Tangent wallets, and you can use this code as many times as you want. I'm still sponsored by them if anybody wants a Tangent wallet. Revolut for essentially for buying crypto, Revolut for holding crypto. Definitely not. Yeah, I agree. I got a text from Barclays saying after 29th of July, there will be a 10K limit on crypto credit and debts. Okay. Miles, should I fear the advancements of AI? No. Good to see you, Manny. Good to see you, Stormy as well. Let's go, Ray. Miles, you're reading Trump's plan to AI Hub. I imagine how government's digging down our lives. Yep. Miles, if you look at every single crypto token in the same downward pattern, whales pulled down the whole market at the same time. So much manipulation. Exactly. It's facts. Honestly. Facts. If you look at all the charts, they are pretty much identical right now inside the crypto space. The whales are having too much fun because there's no bad major news inside the crypto space for this drastic dump to be happening right now. The drastic drop that's happening inside the crypto space, there is absolutely no need for it whatsoever. But the whales are having too much fun right now, to be fairly honest. But anyways, we know where the market's headed. It's headed towards a positive stage. And there's so much positive news today. The market should be reacting in a positive way. But the whales just decided today's the day they've chosen to drastically, coordinately dump the market space. But anyways, the long is going to be absolutely beautiful. Hi, Miles. Why crypto dips today so hot? Just manipulation. Whales are having a good old laugh at us all. Pretty much. It will take about a week for the markets to recover from this crash. Not a week, but depends also. This correction is not a crash. This is a correction, not a crash. I agree. It is also a correction as well, but Jesus, they could have picked another day. Miles, where do you think XRP will drop to? I said around £2. I said it should go, not as low as £2.29. Happy Pisces, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? I'm confident, although the dump and being a negative, but my wife isn't. Deep, no problem. All your wife needs to understand, or anybody else out there that might be panicking looking at the market space right now, is that just think long term. This is just something that's going to pass. It will pass by tomorrow. The market could start reacting in a positive way by tomorrow, the day after, or if it drags on by Monday, the market will be completely recovered. Morning, Miles, the CMF. Shelly, good to see you as well. How you doing? Morning, how you been? Now, Miles, do you trade? Yes, I do. Well, I used to, very long time ago. Today, I decided to jump back into trading. Long the market twice, got liquidated. Now, Ripple executives. I'm a very honest person. Ripple executives warns stablecoin boom is not just a tech trend, it's a risky business. Okay, so a Ripple executive came out and said, we have passed the Clarity Act. It's amazing news that the Clarity Act has passed, and there should be so much positivity, is what Ripple's executives has come out and said. But he's also said that that doesn't mean that every company out there and every bank should be releasing their own stablecoin like as a novelty item, which I agree with 100%. We don't need 50 versions of a stablecoin for the US dollars. It just confuses the hell out of people, and then some will have liquidity, some won't have liquidity. It's just a stupid idea for every bank and every company out there to create their own stablecoin like as a novelty item. I think they should make it a law in the US that banks and institutions just can't create a stablecoin, because it will just create so much confusion if every company out there decides, yeah, we're going to create our own stablecoin. Why? The Genius Act signing into law has essentially reinitiated interest in stablecoins, setting the stage for a new era in digital finance. As the regulatory framework gains traction, industry leaders are weighing in on the future of stablecoin utility and responsibility. According to Ripple's SVP of stablecoins, Jack McDonald, the law has sparked a rush among consumer companies and tech firms eager to launch their own stablecoins. Through X, he expressed that although the interest is high in stablecoins should not be considered brand extensions or mere tech tools. Facts. Hong Kong put it best as well, just to be fairly honest. Hong Kong came out and said, yes, we're passing our own stablecoin laws, but we don't need 25 versions of a stablecoin for Hong Kong dollars. We just need one or two, that's it. McDonald also cautioned Jack McDonald from Ripple, the SVP, also cautioned that the generation of stablecoins comes with a grave infrastructure, and doing this can have significant ramifications. A few days ago, the US President Donald Trump signed a Genius Act which made stablecoins legal but required that liquid assets such as US dollars and short-term treasuries back them. Issuers are also required to periodically review the essentially reserves in order to suggest transparency and trust by the people, which should be there 100%. Coinbase's CEO Brian Armstrong has publicly praised the Genius Act, calling it a critical move towards modernizing outdated financial systems, addressing CNBC essentially on the White House lawn. Armstrong argued that the law could transform payments inside the United States. He focused essentially on how the money transfer system has not changed much in decades and how stablecoins are now faster, cheaper, especially for cross-border payments. In a follow-up post on X, Armstrong described this essentially signing as a defining moment for the financial sector. He spoke of the power of the law to open up the next tier of financial infrastructure and said that the financial revolution forayed here. In the meantime, essentially, McDonald has warned that most new stablecoins are created in closed environments, which essentially hamper their hamper them in the real life. He demanded that stablecoins are not another aspect of products, but the backbone of the financial sector. It's facts. What Ripple, essentially SVP, has said, McDonald, is that, it really shouldn't be a novelty item. Just because the US has passed a Genius Act, which is a stablecoin bill, it doesn't give the green light to every institution out there and every bank out there just to create a stablecoin. Honestly, the amount of confusion that will be created is ridiculous. Armstrong also noted that notwithstanding essentially the breakthrough of Genius Act, additional legislation is necessary. He pressured legislators to approve the Clarity Bill, which would govern the wider crypto sector, compromising stablecoins. President Trump has also shown interest in having essentially the bill considered before the end of September, as per Armstrong's essential request. The Genius Act has brought stablecoins into the regulatory spotlight. Ripple's Jack McDonald and Coinbase Brian Armstrong agree that this marks a pivotal shift in digital finance. As momentum, the focus now shifts towards essentially implementation and the future of crypto regulations inside the United States. I agree with Ripple's SVP 100%. I agree with Brian Armstrong 100%. And I agree with Hong Kong's essential perspective on this matter as well. We don't need 50 versions of a stablecoin. We need one or two, that's it, of a stablecoin. We don't need 50 versions of a US stablecoin, 50 versions of a Euro stablecoin, 50 versions of a pound stablecoin. We just need one or two US dollar stablecoins, one or two British pound stablecoins, one or two Euro stablecoins. You get the picture. That's all we need. So if there are banks out there or institutions out there thinking about creating their own stablecoins, just stop. Just stop. Honestly. We don't need your stablecoins. We already have stablecoins. Now, crypto treasuries. Crypto treasury trend now shifts to XRP. So, before we go through this news, let's go inside the comment section first. I still don't understand why people contemplate this tip. I'm surprised XRP is dropping like that. Usually does drop, but that does better than other coins. So it's obvious. Do you still do your caviar miles? No, I'm having trouble with the imports of caviar right now because of the whole Iran war situation. People should not be panicking. They don't understand investments in general. Just wait till Tether crashes. Be prepared, people, for a big pullback and then a slingshot upwards. I agree 100%. What Happy Pisces has said, I agree with her 100%. She said, people should not be panicking. They don't understand investments in general. Just wait till Tether crashes. Essentially, till Tether crashes, be prepared, people, for a big pullback the day Tether does crash, and then a slingshot upwards. And D has just put a laughing emoji. I think D is laughing about my 2 incidents of liquidation. Now, to be fair, I did put 151x leverage on both of my essentially trades. Both of them got liquidated. Now, and we're back. I have no idea what happened. I need to have a conversation with Restream, the platform that I'm using to go live on, because this is not okay. Can everybody see me and hear me? Put a thumbs up if you can hear me and see me. Put a thumbs up if you can hear me and see me. Yep, we're good. Yes, okay. I don't know what happened there. The screen went black and then it kicked me out of the live stream and then it put me back into the live stream. No idea what's happening. I really need to have a conversation with Restream because that shouldn't happen. Now, crypto treasury trend now shifts to XRP is what we're going to be talking about next. Nasdaq listed company announces purchase. Nature Miracle, a publicly traded company operating in a vertical farming technologies, has announced the launch of an institutional XRP treasury program that could raise up to $20 million. So we have companies that have essentially created Bitcoin treasuries, Solana treasuries, and XRP treasuries. And now we have another company that's decided to open up a XRP portfolio. And they are also a publicly traded company. With this strict move, the company aims to use XRP for long-term reserve staking returns and participation in Ripple's ecosystem. This publicly traded company, Nature's Miracles, will make these XRP purchases using the proceeds from equity financing provided through the GHS investments under the S1 registration statement approved by the US SEC. The XRP investments will also support the company's working capital needs. With this move, Nature's Miracle became one of the first public companies to place XRP at the center of its treasury. XRP currently ranks as the third largest cryptocurrency by market capitalization. According to the company's statements, XRP purchases will initially be funded by proceeds from stock sales under the S1 filings. New stock issuances, straight placements, and structured finance instruments may also be considered to increase XRP's adoption in the future. James Lee, the CEO of Nature's Miracle, said the following: the Genius Act signed by President Trump on July 18, 2025, many institutions have begun to adopt cryptocurrencies as their primary treasury asset. XRP's increased speed and reduced cost in cross-border payments make it a powerful tool. Major financial institutions like Banco Santander and American Express are already working with XRP. Just to repeat that one more time, this is coming from the CEO of Nature's Miracle, a publicly traded company on the stock market. It's a publicly traded company on the stock market. They've decided to create an XRP treasury portfolio for their publicly traded company. And the statement that came out from the CEO of Nature's Miracle, who's created the XRP treasury, is that essentially XRP's increased speed and reduced cost in cross-border payments make it a powerful tool. Major financial institutions like Banco Santander Bank and American Express are already working with XRP, is what the CEO of Nature's Miracle said. We believe this strategy will be beneficial for our shareholders also and our company. So the CEO of Nature's Miracles, publicly traded company, creates an XRP treasury that makes the statement that Bank of America, essentially American Express and Santander Bank, are already working with XRP, and therefore we see it fit to be working with XRP also for our own benefit and our own company too. Not only that, but they also said since the signing of Trump's Genius Act, more and more banks and institutions are coming forward and essentially adapting to cryptocurrencies. Interesting, the market is dumping, but on the other hand, the institutions are positioning themselves. To add on top of that, Brazil's Vert launches private credit, a solution on the XRP ledger. So not only do we have essentially a publicly traded company creating an XRP treasury, talking about how banks are already using XRP, a perspective coming from their CEO, but we also have an announcement from Brazil. Vert, a Brazilian-based capital markets firm, has joined the growing trend of companies looking to tap into tokenization with a new solution on the XRP ledger. A Brazilian company, capital markets firm, decides to enter tokenization choosing the XRP ledger. The fund management firm's move comes as Wall Street giants such as Goldman Sachs, BNY Mellon, and JP Morgan, a tokenized assets market, has attracted products from fund behemoths like BlackRock, Fidelity, and Franklin Templeton. Because those major players are going to tokenization, those major behemoth American essentially institutions are going towards tokenization, Brazilian companies are now going, well, we need to get involved in tokenization as well. And the first move they did was jump on the XRP Ledger for tokenization. XRP Ledger is powered by essentially XRP token. Vert's blockchain-based platform on the XRP Ledger will focus on the issuance and management of private credit operations on the XRP Ledger. Ripple expands its reach to essentially Latin America with this initiative. According to the details on the on-chain venture goes live with the issuance essentially of the receivable certificates. The RCA is a regulated credit instrument managed across a sector that accounts for over 20% of Brazil's gross domestic product. Just to put in perspective again, this company is essentially managed across a sector that accounts for 20% of Brazil's gross domestic products. They've chosen the XRP Ledger. This plays an essential role in Brazil's economy, and improving how credit is structured and tracked in this sector is a meaningful advancement, said Silvio, the managing director of Ripple in Latin America. The first CRA transaction will be valued at 700 million Brazilian real, or approximately $130 million. That's the first transaction on the XRP Ledger, $130 million. And they count for 20% of gross domestic products out of Brazil, 20% of the country. Recently, Token Relations revealed the total tokenized real-world assets on XRP Ledger had grown by 2,260%. In 6 months, from $5 million at the start of the year to over $118 million of the beginning of July. Mercado Bitcoin, also Latin America's largest cryptocurrency exchange and alternative asset investment platform, announced on July 4th that it will also bring $200 million of tokenized real-world assets to the XRP Ledger. Just to put in perspective, the other Latin American company named Bitcoin Mercado is also going to be bringing $200 million on the XRP Ledger. I don't know why they're not bringing $200 million on Bitcoin's chain, but they're bringing $200 million on XRP's ledger. Latin American company named Bitcoin Mercado is coming on the asset. The platform plans to tokenize on the blockchain includes fixed income and equity essentially instruments. The Gilligan essentially Capital is also tapping into the XRP ledger. Its subsidiary, Gilligan Treasury Services, has issued the US Treasury's backed digital commercial paper on the Ripple blockchain platform. Another Latin American company has come forward for the XRP ledger. June also saw tokenized asset platforms on the finance, essentially for Ripple as well. Vert, the Brazilian company, let's just go back to that Vert essentially company. Vert initiative will add to this traction as it helps Brazil's capital markets come on chain. The company aims to generate $500 million in value that will be on chain, and the benefits will include increased operational efficiency, transparency, and accessibility because they're using the XRP ledger. And they're very happy about it. Very happy. As well as issuing private credit on the XRP ledger, the public XRP ledger, because there's only one XRP ledger, as well as issuing private credit on the XRP ledger. Vert is integrating Ripple's Ethereum, essentially compatible protocol XRP ledger EVM sidechain, also to leverage smart contracts for programmability, automation, among other functionalities. So the Brazilian essentially company who's bringing quite a bit of money to the XRP ledger decided to go on the XRP ledger for tokenization and also have access to essentially Ethereum's essentially EVM to have access to smart contracts through the XRP ledger. Though they could have easily went to essentially Ethereum for tokenization and didn't need to use Ripple's EVM sidechain to enter into Ethereum. They could have just used Ethereum for tokenization. There's a reason why they didn't choose Ethereum for tokenization, because Ethereum sucks. Honestly, it's too expensive and it gets congested all the time. There's a reason why this Brazilian company decided to go on the XRP ledger instead, and whenever they want, they can use Ethereum on an EVM sidechain on XRP ledger. But in all sense, because XRP is just better by a mile, it's faster, it's cheaper. There's so much qualities of XRP that's all positive compared to its competitors out there. This is why I've always said XRP is just on another league. On that note of so much positivity for the XRP ledger, so much positivity for the crypto space, yet the crypto market space is not reacting in a positive way. The whales honestly are having an absolute blast. I mean, today from the behemoth news of Goldman Sachs essentially coming together with BNY Mellon and Fidelity, creating this joint adventure of tokenization for the crypto space should have been seen as a positive news, but it wasn't from the crypto space. Ripple XRP Ledger, essentially partnership announcements from Brazil, should have been seen as a positive news, but it wasn't for the crypto space. The other partnership announcements that I read out also should have been seen as a positive note for the crypto space, but it wasn't. Now you can see with your own two eyes how manipulation works inside the crypto sector. The faster we get more regulations coming in, the less manipulation we're going to be having inside the crypto space, and the faster we get to decouple from Bitcoin's footsteps. I can't wait for that day, and we're not that far off. So, on that note, don't be negative just because we've had a drop inside the crypto space in any sort of a way. The whales are just having too much fun right now with themselves. Obviously, you can long and short the market as well. Not financial advice in any sort of a way, but stick on your positive thoughts. Partnerships are still being made. Announcements are still being made. Contracts are still being made. Licensing is still being made. And there's so much positivity inside the crypto space. Don't let 1 or 2 days of negativity get you down. Just think about what's coming towards us. What's coming towards us is rules and regulations, decoupling, utility, and so on. Let's not forget what Morgan Stanley said, what essentially offered, what so many perspectives that came out from Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, the list just goes on, of the behemoth or essentially monster altcoin season that's heading towards us due to the amount of regulations we're going to get every step of the way. And let's not forget the partnerships and announcements that we just made today also. So, on that note, we have reached the endings of tonight's live. This was the CMF Live. It stands for Crypto Mouse Family. This was episode 340 of the CMF Live. Tune in tomorrow for episode 341 of the CMF Live. And the CMF stands for Crypto Mouse Family. My name is Miles. You can tune into this live Monday to Friday at 10 p.m. London time, where I share the most recent news regarding cryptocurrency, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations, vital information for you to know about regarding the world completely transforming into a digital space. If you ever need reassurance inside the crypto space, just tune into this live, Monday to Friday, 10 p.m. I'll see you tomorrow, same time as usual, 10 p.m. But obviously, before we do go, let's go to the comment section. Let's see what's happening there, and then we'll go. Ew. Okay. I can't move the comment section up either. Something's weird going on. So I have to read the comments very quickly. Hi, Miles and CMF. Sorry, I'm late to the party by Let's go. Peg, Stormy, let's go. Night, Miles and CMF. I can't see anybody else's comment above Pegs. Stormy, let's go. See you tomorrow as usual. Night, Miles and CMF. Pablo, see you tomorrow sometimes as usual as well. Good night, Miles and night, CMF. Thank you for a great live and news. JP, let's go. See you tomorrow sometimes as usual. Thanks, Miles. Good night. See you tomorrow. Or if we see you tomorrow sometimes as usual as well. Much appreciated, Miles. Have a lovely night, family. Lena, let's go. See you tomorrow sometimes as usual. I think the people essentially are upset with the SEC playing games. They approve 1 minute, then they pause the approval the next minute. That could be true as well. Very true. Good night, Miles and CMF. Funky Butter, see you tomorrow sometimes as usual. Thanks, Miles. Stormy, see you tomorrow sometimes as usual. Have a great night, Miles. Thank you for keeping us informed. See you same time tomorrow. Let's go to see you tomorrow sometimes as usual. Great show, Miles. Thanks, Bull XRP. See you tomorrow sometimes as usual as well. The reason why I'm talking very fast right now because the comment section for some reason is disappearing as it goes along. I'm trying to gain Miles. Another informative night. See you tomorrow, mate. Let's go. Addy, see you tomorrow sometimes as usual. Good night, brother Miles. Callie, see you tomorrow sometimes as usual. Good night, all Gino. See you tomorrow sometimes as usual. Good night, Miles and CMF. Carol, see you tomorrow sometimes as usual. Thanks, Miles, for your live show. It's great to hear your comments on your crypto space. And it's time to turn off my CMF TV. Let's go, Carl. See you tomorrow sometimes as usual. Chin up, guys. I've seen these kinds of dips more than 200 times in 3 years, which is facts. We've definitely seen these dips more than 200 times in a year. I will see everybody tomorrow, same timing as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you are around the world. See everybody tomorrow, same time as usual for episode 341. Like, comment, share, retweet, follow, subscribe. If you already haven't, I'll see everybody tomorrow, same time as usual. Like, comment, share, retweet, and subscribe. See everybody tomorrow, same time as usual for episode 341 of the CMF Live. And turn on your bell notifications after you follow and subscribe.